most of y'all know me. I'd like to thank you all for attending the Del Norte Social Justice Youth Summit Board of Supervisors Candidates Forum. Hooray! This is the culminating event for an all-day youth summit aimed at community building with young people, encouraging them to get informed and civically engaged. As we have said a couple times today, we're all one people with one struggle, and our goal is to learn about each other and the issues we all face and the way that they intersect so we can all rise as one together. Before I get started, I want to thank all of the people who made this event happen, the young organizers at Gender Talk and Local Youth Organizing Network, our funder, the California Endowment, and our fiscal sponsor, Del Norte Association for Cultural Awareness. Also, thank you to the Triplicate and to KFUG Radio for being here and reporting on it. Yay. And just so you all know, this forum is nonpartisan and the candidates have received the questions in advance. Okay, so let's introduce the candidates. We have two of them. Christopher Howard, the incumbent candidate for District 3. And we have Jerry Hemmingson, the incumbent candidate for District 4. And we do have young voting people here in both of your districts today.
Right on. Awesome. Good.
So we had originally commitments from David Mason and Ronald Phillips, both running in District 4. They said they were going to be here today. They are not here today. We also reached out to Jake Smith from District 3 and Roger Daly from District 4, and they did not get back in touch with us. So those are the other candidates running. Thank you for the two who are here for prioritizing young voters. That's very important. And we have 3 questions. You guys have read them before. We presented them to everyone here as part of their packets. And asking question 1, please welcome Jacob Patterson.
Hi. So, question 1. The current Board of Supervisors and the candidates are a fairly homogeneous group. Please identify at least 2 specific actions you will take to address and amplify the voices of more marginalized communities that you are elected to represent, including, but not limited to, women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, the indigenous community, the disabled community, and youth ages 21 and under, keeping in mind that these identities often overlap.
Let's start with District 3, Christopher Howard.
Thank you, Jacob. The job of a county board of supervisors is to be inclusive of everybody. And the board strives, often fails, but they do strive to be a voice for everybody. But we do fall down sometimes, as you've seen recently in examples at the Board of Supervisors meeting around SB 54. It's been a wedge issue for us. It's been extremely polarizing, and more importantly, it's been used as a campaign issue to drive separation between a community that is extremely small, where you have to see everybody when you go to the grocery store. It's not fair in politics to do so, but then again, politics isn't fair. But what we do know is that everybody should be treated equally. And that's what we strive to do and should strive to do as elected officials in this community. Examples of how we're getting there. You mentioned Native Americans. We have 4 federally recognized Native American tribes in Del Norte County: the Resagini Rancheria, the Yurok tribe, Elk Valley Rancheria, and the Tolowadini Nation. The board has 2x2 committees with each one of these federally recognized tribes. We strive to be with them at least every other month, so they could have a voice not only in community government, but they could also tell us what they want to do to achieve their goals as a federally recognized tribe, because they struggle to get back to where they were and where they want to be. Those are just a couple of examples right there of where we'd like to be as a board. Sometimes we get there very slowly, sometimes it's a little less fast, but what we do know is that our door is always open and we try to welcome them in. Hope that helps.
All right, District 4, Jerry Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you. Chris is right on point. What I thought I would do with this question is kind of elaborate on what I do in practice. I have several businesses within Del Norte County. and there's a lot of things that I believe in and that I do in practice for my businesses. I believe in equal pay for equal work. I try my very best to keep that equity going. I have people of both genders working for me, and pay is pretty consistent, so I feel like I do that pretty well. In hiring practices, I don't discriminate by race, gender, religion, anything. I don't even ask those questions, so it's not something that I do. As far as disabilities, my father and my brother both lost their legs. Not both their legs, my brother lost both his legs, my dad lost one leg. So I know what it's like for a physically disabled person to try to get around. And of course the Americans with Disability Act it works out pretty well for them to be able to get around and get services that they needed at the time when they were still alive. Other disabilities, mental disabilities, psychological disabilities, those sometimes aren't as evident and not as easy to pick out, but we need to make sure that we have those services available, for people that do have those types of disabilities. As a supervisor, as Supervisor Howard said, through the 2x2 process, meeting with the tribes, that's a pretty important part of our job, to get the perspective of the tribes and how they see the world differently than maybe we see the world. And I think that's true with a lot of different aspects of age, whether you're youth, whether you're older, depending on what your perspective is. Everybody looks at things just a little bit different. So we certainly need to be aware of that. I think that for the youth, I'm a huge proponent of early education, learning to read at an early age, especially getting to that third grade proficiency level by the time you reach third grade. That to me is extremely important. From 0 to third grade, you learn to read, and from then on, you read to learn. So that's an important part for me. And the 3 Read 23 is something that the supervisors have endorsed, and we're pushing that forward. We want to keep going. And from the school aspect, bullying is not something that should be tolerated, and something that I am totally against. And not just in schools, but in the community, within the community bullying, which we have seen from time to time. Staying with the education component, I'm a big believer in vocational education. I think we need to push that agenda more. Not everybody wants to go off to college and, continue their education. Some people want to get into working. So we need to make sure that there are avenues that you can go to be able to reach your interest in a vocational activity. And just repeating what Supervisor Howard says, all voices need to be heard. All Americans should have the same rights regardless of what they believe or what they look like.
All right, thank you very much. For our second question, we have Manuel Saavedra.
Hello,
Hi.
Ms. Howard and Mayor Henderson. Thank you for coming. It means a lot that you prioritize youth. So question 2 reads, one of the measures up for vote in the Del Norte election is Measure A, which imposes term limits for newly elected supervisors, but exempts currently sitting supervisors to these limits. Do you support this measure? Why should voters vote against or for this measure? Would you support a measure that includes term limits for all supervisors? Why or why not?
start the same
You
order.
want me to-
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say. you want me to
Okay.
go first?
It's up to you. The Board of Supervisors had to put this measure on the ballot for everybody to vote on. It was brought forward as a measure by Supervisor Berkowitz and Supervisor Gitlin. It made it onto the ballot with a third vote from Supervisor Cowan. Supervisor Cowan and Supervisor Berkowitz both campaigned on a Measure A type issue when they were campaigning for their races a year and a half ago. So they felt it important to follow through on their promise. So both Jerry and I voted against Measure A when it was kind of time to put it on the ballot. And here's my reasoning behind it. It's very difficult to find somebody that's willing to run for a political office in Del Norte County. Oftentimes you see a lot of, for lack of a better term, and we have seen for the last several years, bullying, which Jerry has referred to, not only in schools, but outside in our community. It's absolutely unacceptable, but it also turns off people from serving their community to a certain extent and rising to a higher office. But once you come into office, you serve everybody. You just don't serve yourself. And it takes a long time to develop relationships, not only with our local community, with the representatives around us in other counties, our legislative representatives at the state, and our congressional representatives. Those relationships don't come easy. They don't take a short period of time to develop. And then once you develop that relationship, as many of you probably heard, it takes a long time to cultivate. Once those relationships occur, you keep them and maintain them. But when you're out of office, they pretty much disappear, and the person that comes in has to start that all over again and really put a lot of effort to it. But believe it or not, what it comes down to is that relationship is what's going to make the connection between you and your issue for this community. They're going to remember that handshake, they're going to remember that smile, and they're going to remember that issue that you're passionate about when it comes to taking a decision that's going to affect you at the state or federal level right here in our backyard. And if you don't have the right personality to do that, I guarantee you they're going to forget about you as soon as you turn around and walk out that door. Relationships are extremely important, and more importantly, that's why I don't believe that Measure A was the right decision when it was put forward at the time. And I hope the folks in this community make the right decision when they go to the polls in this year. But I don't know if you want to add much to that, but I'm sure you have a voice in it.
I've got several things to say about this particular issue, and I think it's, there's a need to know, at least this is from my perspective, why I think term limits were ever started in the first place, and that is not necessarily to get rid of your representative, but to get rid of the other guy's representative, because you don't get a chance to vote the other guy out. You only get a chance to vote your guy out. So if you have term limits, then you can make sure that that other guy is not going to stay in there for a long period of time. That's not necessarily a good thing, and I don't think that anybody should ever give up their right to vote. This has taken away your right to be able to vote somebody into office, or vote somebody out of office. You don't even get a chance to vote them out if they're just removed. At least if they were still there, you could vote them out. But you don't get that opportunity to vote them in. In a small community like ours, it's difficult to get qualified people that are really interested in doing the job. I'm really interested in doing the job. I put forth a lot of effort to do this job, to make connections, to be able to, like Chris said, to be able to have that handshake where a person can come across the room and say, you're from Del Norte County, and I remember the last time I saw you, we talked about this or that. To be able to form those partnerships to where you can move things forward. It's all about connections and keeping that going. It's very difficult when you continually have transitions. We've got term limits in state legislators, and it seems like they're continually turning over, and you have to find a new connection, new staff, new people. It makes it very difficult, even on the state level. But on a smaller scale, when you're dealing with a county that's our size, or counties that are even smaller, to be able to get those people in there that really want to do the job is sometimes extremely difficult. Now, this particular election, there's quite a few people that are running, for elections. So in that case, it doesn't always hold true. But my last 2 terms, I didn't have anybody run against me. Of course, I think that's because I was doing a pretty good job. I don't think I'm doing any different of a job. I just think there's different circumstances. But I think you need to keep that in mind. Most basically, it's taking away your right to vote, and I don't think anybody should be able to take that away from you.
Thank you. All right, we have one more question. I'm going to ask that one myself. So SB 54, the California Values Act, has been a regular and controversial topic for the current Board of Supervisors. What are some of the steps you have taken as a supervisor, or to prepare for your role as supervisor, these empty chairs sitting here, to better understand the immigrant community, as well as the citizens negatively affected by legislation targeting the immigrant community? If none, what are some steps you're willing to take? Or why should those who support SB 54 support your candidacy? Let's start with Chris again.
Hey,
Just lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Well, 3 comes before 4, so
Yeah.
Exactly.
that's what it should be.
So I mentioned a little earlier that this is a very polarizing issue. It's not only polarizing here in Del Norte County, it's polarizing at the state level, and it's polarizing on the national level. This is a movement that we've seen spread across the United States, pitting immigrants against folks that feel they're non-immigrants. It's not right. And what we have playing out here is something in a small town that I believe needs to be played out between the 2 people that started this fight, Governor Jerry Brown and President Trump. We all have to get along. And I know this because some of my best friends that I work with on a daily basis at Alexander Dairy are Hispanic. And their children are coming home to them after people have pointed to them at school and said, hey, so-and-so said, you're going to be gone here soon. Or so-and-so said, ICE is coming to pick you up. This is not a good thing, folks, because that probably won't happen, but the fear that creates in a child is a fear that's real, and that we as local policymakers and as elected leaders do not need to continue to perpetuate that fear in our own backyard. These are people that have rights in our community. They're living here, they're working here, and they're adding to the wealth of our economy. Without them, our clock probably wouldn't tick as well. And that is a true thing. Moving forward, we as the Board of Supervisors, specifically with the California Values Act, there's not one of us that wants to get in the way, present some kind of barrier for law enforcement to do their job. And the California's Values Act, before it was voted on, the Law Enforcement Association of the State of California turned around and supported it. That should say something here, folks. It should say a lot. The decision for the California Values Act, SB 54, that group of individuals that enforces the law of the state of California came out and said, we support SB 54 because at a negotiated level within the legislation at the state of California, they managed to work together as policymakers to put in language into the legislation that would go out and be able to get those people that were violent felons and have that conversation with the Immigration and Nationalization Service to get them out of here. Bottom line, those laws were written in there, and as you heard us debate for 3.5 hours at our Board of Supervisors meeting, we felt very strongly about it. But the folks that wanted to see the hurt and the wedge and the anguish presented to others in this community, in my feeling during an election year, drove that home. And yet there was just as many people, if not more, on the other side that didn't want to see anything done. So I think the board rose to a higher level. And as you saw, as motioned by Supervisor Hemmingson and seconded by Supervisor Cowan, we moved to table any type of resolution, any kind of action on SB 54 until this issue was ferreted out legally in our court system. And until that time, California, in which Del Norte County is an extension of the state of California as a general law county, we will allow our process to move forward as a general law community and enforce that law as we see and allow our sheriff to do his job appropriately.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, this gets down to a law enforcement issue. I personally believe in due process, and I think everybody that's here is allowed due process. So the first part of due process is not to find out whether you're a U.S. citizen or not. Due process is you have rights. So everybody has rights. So you have those rights first, and then you go into other issues. But, in talking with the current sheriff and the previous sheriff, before SB 54, there wasn't an issue. After SB 54, there's not an issue. So it's this one size fits all where some counties maybe think they've got issues. This county does not have issues. So if we want to get into a fight with whether it's legal or not legal, and try to, or if we get into this battle, it could be financially devastating to us. I don't think we should go out and round up illegal immigrants. I don't think I don't think there's a need for that. To me, it's like and I don't even know if they still do it, but there used to be a tag on mattresses that say, if you remove this tag, it's illegal to remove this tag. So are we going to go around and check everybody's mattresses to see if they removed that tag? This is the kind of level I think that we're getting into here. It's a divisive issue. It's being brought up, I think, as part of a campaign issue. It's something that I don't think we need to really get into the weeds with. We don't have the resources to get into a lawsuit if we want to stand up against this bill, or if we want to stand for it. We don't have the resources to stand up to a lawsuit, win or lose. We can't do it. If we lose, we don't have the resources to pay any kind of a fine. ACLU has already sued several counties and have threatened to sue us if we get involved. I don't think there's any reason for us to get involved with this. Let somebody else figure all this out before it comes down to that. I think everything's going to be fine. I don't think we're going to have an issue here. I don't think we've had an issue, and I don't think we're going to have an issue.
So since that took much less time than we had anticipated, having only half the candidates we anticipated, I'm going to throw a little curveball. And I'm going to invite each of you to share something an issue that you're passionate about as a supervisor.
Could Jerry go first?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a lot of reasons for running for supervisor. But I think my main reason is because I've got grandkids that are 5th generation Del Norte County, and I want those kids, and I want all of you to be able to have a spot to come back to in Del Norte County. We need to make sure that we have an economic base where if you want to come back and be employed here, that there's opportunity for you to do that. I want to make sure my grandkids can come back and work here if they choose to do so. I'm truly blessed and truly fortunate that my son and my daughter, they both work here. My daughter worked in Sacramento for a while as a school teacher and was able to come back here to go to work as a school teacher. I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy that she is, because that makes my grandkids very close in proximity to me, so I get to visit them every day if I choose, and I choose to a lot. They're extremely important to me. I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about Del Norte County. We need to keep things moving. We've got a lot of issues. I mean, we've got some transportation corridor issues, 199, 197, last chance grade. Those are things that we need to keep focused on, that I've been focused on since I've been a supervisor. It's a long haul. We had a solution to 199, 197, and it got interrupted. We're still pushing that forward. I do believe that that is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in short order, but I hope to have it happen before my next term is up, if I am reelected. Last chance grade is going to be a little bit longer push, but we've got some great things going on last chance grade. We've got $5 million allocated for geotechnical studies, and we've dovetailed onto that, parallel tracking environmental studies. We've got another $5 million committed for that, so that they can jump right into the environmental studies. The next ask is going to be for the actual environmental work to be done. So those things are moving right along. We've got jet service now out of our airport. The terminal should be completed this year. We've got a lot of things going on. We've got new businesses moving in. There's a lot of good things happening in Del Norte County, and so you need to keep that in mind. That you know, it's not all, you know, I've said this before and I get in trouble for it, doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're working real hard to get there. And you know, the supervisors that are dedicated into moving this county forward, I think, are doing an absolutely outstanding job. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Jerry touched on some important pieces, and it involves the ability of our children to come back here and have a home if they want to make this their home in the future. As many of you know, and probably have had my wife as a teacher in high school. She's been a teacher at Del Norte High since 1997. She reluctantly came up here with me in 1994 after kicking and screaming a little while, but she did follow me up from UC Davis. Back then, I had my hair a little longer, probably down to my shoulders. I drove an orange Volkswagen van.
Wearing a bandana.
And they thought, yes, I was wearing a bandana. They thought I was going to chain myself to the fence at Relham Redwood Company and protest and tie myself to a tree. But in reality, I was coming up there for a job. And I spent the next 16 years working for Timber Company, chasing northern spotted owl and marbled murrelet and salmon around the redwoods, learning more about the environment than anybody else out there in that backyard. And it really worked out good for me. But what it did show me as I was pulling up to that gate is I watched 350 people lose their job at a mill site as the economy here with timber began to recede. And at the same time that economy with the timber began to recede, we also saw the recession in our commercial fishing industry. There was a time when you as a graduate from high school could go to work in a mill, or you could go to work on a boat. Your wife could stay at home, raise your 2.3 children, and come out and have that living wage job and raise a family, a healthy family with a goal in life. That fell away when we lost our last mill. We're not going to get that resource economy back. And we, as a community, need to find that thing that's going to make us tick. Right now, the main industries we have left here are tourism, which we've been working very hard on as a city and a county to boost and have done very well so over the last decade, by almost doubling the amount of revenues coming into our area. And number two, we've done an extremely good job at making this community known. And by that I mean we've kept our agricultural community alive and well here. People have jobs in our agricultural community, which is the second largest driver here for Del Norte County. We need to ensure that that stays in place, and anytime there's an attack on that, us as Board of Supervisors need to be in the way to ensure that those jobs stay in place. Not only in dairy, not only in farming, not only in lilies. It's a very important piece. For me right now, the biggest passion, I'm going to touch on this because it's around my head, is the passion about saving lives. I was very fortunate last year, February, to be invited by Mayor Toba and Chairman Ito Aikato to Japan, to Riches and Takata, to look over the devastation that was created through a 42-foot high wall of water. And it made me realize, after being here less than 25 years, that we've had 3 tsunamis in our backyard during that period of time. One completely devastated our commercial fishing fleet. This was a community that has 100% participation in tsunami readiness, meaning when they have a drill, which they have every month, everybody in a community of 28,000 people participates. If I would tell you the participation rates in Del Norte County for our tsunami preparedness, your jaw would hit the floor. Because we as a community and our citizens are not prepared. They were prepared, and they lost life. 2,000 people. That's not fun, sitting in Japan, listening to the stories of their elected officials who had prepared their citizenry to prepare for a tsunami. And listening to the stories of Mayor Toba talking about to his wife on the telephone the day of that event, saying, honey, you're in a safe zone. You're going to be okay. She lost her life that day because he told her to stay put because she was in the safe zone. They were not prepared, folks. Del Norte County, for all extents and purposes, is the most prepared community for tsunami readiness on the Pacific Coast. It has been told to us by Troy Nicolini of the National Weather Service, and it's been told to us by Lori Dangler, Humboldt State University, who have traveled the world following tsunamis for most of their career, preparing communities for tsunami readiness. Del Norte County is the most prepared on the Pacific Coast for tsunami, and yet our citizens will most likely perish if a tsunami were to happen here within the next few minutes. We need to find a way to get that voice out. And as Mayor Toba and Chairman Ito have invited us continuously back to Japan, and as we'll do so next month, we'll go once again with those folks who are involved in our Office of Emergency Services to try to keep the word spread. It's coming at great cost. The 3 board members on the Board of Supervisors right now is being played out in social media about even spending a dime on this invitation, even though they have invited students and even though they have invited us twice and paid for our entire trip. Our community has said very loudly on social media, sorry guys, we don't want you to have any skin in the game. Why can't you just sign an agreement and send it via Skype or email? Well, folks, as elected leaders, we're here to look out for everybody. More importantly, we're here to look into the future. And you don't develop a relationship over Skype, and you certainly don't develop a relationship by signing something and sending it in the mail. It's done face-to-face. We talked about it under the Measure A issue, and I'll talk about it here again. This is an issue I'm extremely passionate about, and so is Mayor Enscore, about ensuring that our community is tsunami ready so we don't have a loss of life. And you don't have to personally tell that story to your relative someday that you could have saved somebody.
Thank you both. So in the last 10 or 15 minutes we have, I'd like to open the floor. If anyone has thought of any questions they'd like to ask or follow-up questions, the questions that have already been asked.
We don't bite, really, so come on, just...
If elected, would you promise to meet with the constituents of youth to kind of see how we're going to go from here, from election day, to see how both of you can local politics more, not just more appealing to young people, but actually welcome young people in the decision-making process.
You want me to go?
Please.
I'll meet with you now. I'm already a supervisor. I'd be happy to meet with you. You know, I get people in my office. I get, and that aren't even in my district. I'm a county supervisor. You know, even though I'm elected in my district, I don't leave anybody out. I don't say, oh no, you need to go see so and so. If you want answers, I will try my very hardest to get you answers. I will tell you either if you want to do them, I'll tell you who to get in touch with. If you want me to do it, I will make the attempt to do that also. I would be happy. I'm happy to meet with any group at any time. I shouldn't say at any time. It has to be a time when I'm available, and I try to make myself available a lot. It's a commitment that I made when I first got elected, that I would do this job first, and my other jobs would come in second place, which I have held to throughout my tenure as being a supervisor, and I will continue to do that. You know, that's what I'm there for, is to help the people of the community, and I'm more than happy to do that for anyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, like Jerry said, whether you vote or not, you are a voice in this community. And ensuring that your voice is heard with our policymakers, like Jerry, my door is open 24/7. And I'll be there for you. I don't take any
24/7?
I don't take any hesitation. I do. I answer the phone just about any time of the night. I give out my cell phone number to everybody who wants it.
Yeah, I do.
And Jerry does too. We
But
are
24/7?
accessible. We are accessible. We are accessible. Jerry's actually more accessible than I am. But we are
I'm not
accessible.
24/7. Don't give me a call at 3 o'clock. I shouldn't say
Give
that.
Give
You
Jerry
got
a
an
call.
emergency. You
Give
got
him
an
a call at
emergency
3 o'clock.
You give me an emergency at 3 o'clock in the morning
Supervisor's
and I'll be there.
emergency.
We are available, guys, and we have been since we got elected. So just don't be shy.
All right, any other questions?
Thoughts on Save the Harbor initiative?
Good, yeah, I've been helping to promote that. You know, we need to have our harbor. I've contributed to the fundraising portion of it. It's an integral part of our community, and we need to have that. I think it's a tourist attraction that we would that would be devastating if we were to lose any part of it. You know, if we were to lose control of it in some fashion, it would not be good for the community. We need to make sure that continues to be a viable operation, and we need to make sure that happens. And I think the very small tax that has been proposed that's going to be on the ballot, which is paid for by people who come and visit, who have the opportunity to see the harbor and to enjoy it. I think that's a pretty small price to pay to be able to have that visitation right. So I'm all in support of the tax measure, and I do hope that it passes.
Yeah, like Jerry stated, definitely in support of it. Signed it. It needs to go to the voters. It's a voter decision. That right should be had by the voters. But I am in support of it and have been of our harbor since I moved here. It is a crown jewel of this area. It was destroyed by a tsunami. Our governments came together. They cobbled together money from all sources, including the California Endowment, to make that happen. They funded the bridge loan to make it go. We have an awesome opportunity to really shore up that last piece of their $5.5 million debt. If the voters decide to move forward with it, that transient occupancy tax income could go back into funding the reduction of that debt. But that debt burden from that tax will be on the folks visiting this community to come up here to see our beautiful area. So, for me, very supportive of it.